Natural dyes were used for centuries. The history books tell us that dyed fabrics from the United Kingdom, from England, made all their way to the Silk Road in Damascus. These things were prized. The knowledge that these dyers had was important and was prized by people around the globe.
Natural dyed textiles are so important but also so nourishing for the people, not only that consume them, but the people that make them as well.
It is really important to kind of acknowledge that we need to take a step back and maybe reconsider the way that things are made.
Growing Colour Together, it's more than a project, it's a movement. Natural dyeing is basically a textile process that you can use plant life matter, or you can use plant waste, or you can use foraging of plants, whether it be nettles, woad, things like that you can collect and work with. But natural dyeing is essentially taking that natural material and turning it into a pigment, either by using steam or heat, or simply by pressing into a cloth or a ground to create a stain or a dye. Growing Colour Together is for anyone, but it's starting with the communities across the Kirklees area.
Historically, in Kirklees, in Yorkshire, in Lancashire, people worked in the textile industry and were closely involved. They understood the value of what they were wearing on a daily basis. They understood the hard work and the technical knowledge that went into producing it, whether that be in the weave, in the knit, in the dyeing. I think this idea of introducing dye gardens into areas is going to play a major part in people reconnecting with where their clothes come from and to value the clothes that they have.
It's very, very important that we recognise Kirklees as the wider support for the textile sector. Of course, the history and the heritage of textiles in this area is synonymous with high quality production manufacturing, working really at the top end of garments, of tailoring, of fashion and clothing.
The dye garden is something that is flowers, vegetables, trees, anything that you can use for eco-printing. So dye garden is everyone's garden. Anyone can create a dye garden. It's just about having a go.
So we work across the community with Kirklees Council and our partners who are involved with Growing Colour Together to encourage our communities to plant and grow wherever they can. So whether they can get spaces in parks, whether it's a planter on a doorstep, whether it's outside of a community library, we're encouraging those communities to really take ownership of this project.
With this colour garden, we want the parents, the children to have ownership of it, because as a school, it's not just our school, it's for the kids. We're here for the kids and we're here for the community. Right now, it doesn't look the greatest, but we hope that one day that this will be colourful, it'll be a garden, it'll be a community space for our community and other community members that would like to come and visit here. It's theirs. Basically, at the end of the day, it is theirs.
Sustainability in its truest form is just about making the world a better place for future generations. Everything we do has an impact on the globe, on communities, and if we can find ways to minimise that impact through being smarter with the way we do things, then we should. You ask anybody if they want to do environmental damage and nobody would, but if you ask them how they could change that, they wouldn't know. We need to provide people with the skills and the knowledge to actually live a more sustainable life. Challenge our ideologies. We have to challenge the way we the way we live our lives and look for new opportunities to change and be willing to make that change. And one of the great ways you can do that is through community engagement and actively getting people to understand this on a local level and how it impacts on them personally.
A large part of all of this is we need to make sure that we use our clothes for longer, that we don't throw them away into landfill. We need to use more natural fibres, and therefore dye gardens play an important part in connecting us with those textiles. I'm sure anybody who grows a dye plant and takes a piece of woolen fabric woven in Kirklees and dyes it with that natural dye stuff, that fabric will take on a totally different meaning because of the colour that's there and because they've managed to apply that colour themselves, having grown it. I think that's going to be an important part of reconnecting.
I think that working with things like natural dyes makes you appreciate textiles more. Like the amount of work that goes into a naturally dyed garment or a hand woven piece or something that's hand embroidered, it just sort of reminds you of how much fabric was valued in the past, and a lot of thought and a lot of love and a lot of skill goes into it, and we've sort of lost that nowadays. Most people don't really think about what their fabrics are made from. They don't think about how they're dyed, and once you start getting into it yourself, you really start to think about it and how much we used to value textiles in the past.
Textiles are everywhere. We use them every day. I mean, things that we may not even realise are textiles are textiles. They're just like such part of everything, everywhere. It feels quite special doing something like the weaving with the natural dyes as something in the heritage. Maybe we can even change people's relationships with things like textiles.
There's so much material out there that ultimately would just go to landfill, and we really should try to utilise this to just create something beautiful and just have fun with it, really.
So natural dyes can be really accessible for anyone to have a go at. There's lots of things that you can find in the kitchen. So for example, onion skins, pomegranate rinds, avocado skins and pits, coffee grounds, turmeric as well. There's also a lot of things like weeds which you can use. So for example, nettles, there's ragwort, there's sorrel. What's really exciting is seeing how textiles change over the course of the seasons. So when you've gone foraging in one season, you could get completely different outcomes from foraging in another season. And it's really about that journey of discovery. So wanting to go out and actually using it as an exploration and learning about your local environment and how it does change over the seasons and finding joy in that and how that can reflect in textiles that you create.
I think anyone can have their own dye garden. It doesn't matter what size it is. You can have little plant pots growing some coreopsis. You can use a vegetable garden. So, your onion skins from a vegetable garden, your beetroot, purple carrot, they all can be used for dyeing.
Growing colours together means connection to me. So it's about connecting to nature. It's about connecting with other people. And it is about bridging that gap between gardening and art practices.
So when I create scarves, I remember the foraging trip that I went on to get the plants which get put into the scarves. And when I wear a particular scarf, I can see the outlines of the plants and I can see the colours working through the scarves. And I remember, what particular sunny day it was where I went out and got those plants. Or I remember the process of making it and how I was feeling emotionally at the time. And what's really lovely is that over time, as they fade, I can then continue to keep dyeing into the same scarf, and the meaning of the scarf can change for me, because I might then decide, well, I'll go and forage in autumn this time, and then use lots of acorns and things like that, or elderberries, which will change the tone of the scarf. And it's really nice because it can be a garment for a lifetime.
The movement seems quite large, it seems something massive, but when you break it down, it's making those small steps, those small little continual movements towards a goal. So whether that's a sustainable development goal, whether it's improving your own personal well-being, it's those little small steps, those small movements towards a really positive outcome potentially there.
For me, what makes it a great project is that it's empowering people to think differently about the world, to think differently about the way they live their lives, and to bring people together, you know. And if we're doing that, we're well on our way towards achieving a sustainable future.
We are part of the earth, we're part of this world, and we forget that along the way, and we're connected to it because we can't live without nature. It's calming, you know, it's creative, it's calming, it's inspiring. And I think when you're out in a garden, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter who you are, it's just you and the plants and the soil.
Growing Colour Together is an evolving project, and we want people to join in with the areas that interest you. So if you're interested in gardening, get involved. If you're interested in natural dyeing, get involved. If you're interested in just general art practices within the garden, get involved. It's what it means to you. So there's many strands and many elements to this project.
Growing Colour Together can be something for everyone. I think there's an element in there that would touch every single person, whether it be someone who just wants to plant seeds and see new life, whether it's someone who wants to just harvest things and collect and gather and dry, or someone who wants to press flowers and leaves and create something out of that, or if it's actually using the plants that you are collecting to create inks or paints or dyes. You can then do all sorts of different things with natural dyeing, and I think there is something for everyone.